Introducing Instagram Teen Accounts, a new way to keep your teen safer as they grow, like making sure they always have their seatbelt on.
All right, buckle up. Good job.
New Instagram Teen Accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is the Weekly Scramble, a place where we chat about life over a cold one or two. It's time to belly up to the pod with Mike Fratelloni and your host, Chris Reuvers.
Yes, it is time for the Weekly Scramble. My name is Chris Reuvers. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for your continued support of the Weekly Scramble. Michael is going to be off this week. He is traveling for work, and so that gives me the opportunity to give you a little sneak peek, and not a sneak peek, I should say, but I wanted to play a couple of segments that I truly, truly enjoyed and quite honestly just wanted to listen to for selfish reasons that we did back in the day when we used to be called The Beer Show on 1500 ESPN. So it's Reuvers here in the GL Podcast Studios. But first, I do want to make mention of our good friends over at Harmony Spirits. If you haven't done so yet and you're maybe looking for a place to get away for the day, a day trip on the bike or whatever, our friends down in Harmony, Minnesota, make some of the best handcrafted spirits right here in our own backyard, right there on the border of Minnesota and Iowa. And you know what? Their tasting room is spectacular. Like I said, if you're looking for a day trip, check out their spring cocktail menu. I mentioned it last week, but I got a couple of great reviews from people that were just down in the area over Memorial Day weekend and said, thank you for the recommendation, Reuvers. Wife and I stopped in. Really, really enjoyed our time, and then also brought home a bottle of the Harmony Spirits vodka so that we could make our own cocktails once we got home. They're the best, and they've been loyal supporters of this show on and off for the last couple of years. And so if you are in your local liquor store and can't make it to Harmony, Minnesota, please, please, please ask your local liquor store for the Harmony brand by name. That is how we are going to continue to get the word out for the best craft spirits made right here in the state of Minnesota. It's Harmony Spirits, and you can check out their website too, harmonyspirits.net. So with that aside, I do want to point out one of my favorite interviews that we ever did on the Beer Show. It was a couple of years ago, and I had the honor of interviewing the legendary Jim Koch from the most famous Boston beer brand, Samuel Adams, and Jim was just an absolute treat to have on the show. So here he is. I hope you enjoy the Weekly Scramble. Welcome back to the Beer Show right here on 1500 ESPN, 1500ESPN.com. It is Chris Reuvers, and 3.5, nearly 4 years into me doing this beer show, I finally get the opportunity to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Koch, the founder of the Boston Beer Company and brewer at Sam Adams. Jim, you have no idea how much of a pleasure that this is.
Well, it's a pleasure for me, too, to share a beer with you.
Oh, It's funny that this is the week. It's Super Bowl week. It's beer week for everybody. And you being a Boston guy and a diehard New England Patriots fan, the first question I want to ask is, given the run of success with the Patriots, do you and Patriots fans still get nervous before the Super Bowl?
Well, I certainly do. I think we might be getting a little cocky here in New England, but I've been a Patriots fan for a long time, and I remember the fact that while we've had a pretty good run since Belichick and Brady showed up, I mean, we had a bad century. The whole 20th century was bad for us. So I feel very blessed that the Patriots are in another Super Bowl, and I don't think we should take anything for granted.
Given that run of ineptitude that you're talking about, us here in Minnesota, we're all too familiar with that with our beloved Minnesota Vikings. So are you telling us that maybe at some point we're going to get the 10 to 15-year payoff that you guys are experiencing in New England?
Well, I hope so. Patriots-Vikings would be a pretty cool Super Bowl because you guys have your share of rings, too. And for me, as the brewer, the guy who started Sam Adams, I think it's very cool that, I have a beer named after Samuel Adams, the original New England Patriot. And now his namesakes, the football team are playing in the Super Bowl. Because if it weren't for Sam Adams, the founding father, the revolutionary, we wouldn't have our independence. We wouldn't have our own country. We certainly wouldn't have a Super Bowl. And if we did, it would be like a cricket match, and we'd be drinking tea and singing "God Save the Queen." So, Sam Adams, the beer, in a way, it gave us the Super Bowl.
Jim, I've always wanted to ask you this because, when you guys got your start, you in particular, it was around 84, correct? 1984?
Exactly.
So you guys, I've always kind of equated you guys to what we have locally here with Summit. Summit got their launch in 1986, and in the Twin Cities in the state of Minnesota, they're kind of our craft beer, but you guys really were on the forefront of what's become a craft beer explosion. Tell me and tell the listener about, what made you get over the your nuts hump and go forward with your vision of craft beer.
Well, I grew up in a brewing family. My dad was a brewmaster. My grandfather was a brewmaster. My great-grandfather. I'm the sixth oldest son in my family to be a brewer. So beer was kind of in my blood. About a .04, so it was legal. But it'd been part of my life since I was a kid. So I had a unique, passion and love for beer and its traditions. And, in 1984 when I started, there were really just a handful of craft brewers. None of them were being very successful. Nobody knew about craft beer. But I had this vision that, I could start a small brewery here in Boston and make high-quality American beer with the best ingredients, and maybe somebody would drink it. And then Sam Adams, 6 weeks after it came out, it got picked as the best beer in America.
Wow.
And it was not only an amazing honor for a company that was probably close to the smallest brewery in America at that point, but it also, established the idea of quality in American beer. And and Sam Adams got some traction, had some success, and I think it also demonstrated to other people like my friend Mark Studrud at Summit that you could actually start a brewery from scratch. And so, Sam Adams became kind of like our namesake, the revolutionary behind this craft beer revolution. And now there's 5,000 breweries in the United States making some of the best beers on the planet, and I'm happy to have Sam Adams continue to develop new beers, to innovate, to do cool new things, like the Sam Adams Hopscape that we have as our seasonal beer now.
I was just going to ask you about that. I know that you have the Hopscape, and that's going to be available. Is that available now, or is that coming up here soon?
No, that's available now.
Nice.
It turned out to be, very fortuitous, because when I was developing it, I thought, maybe the Patriots will be in the Super Bowl. And I thought, but I know there's going to be a Super Bowl, and Super Bowl is time when you kind of want to step up your game. You want to, if you got people over, you want to have a better beer. You're not going to do it with the, ordinary cheap beer. You're going to have a better beer like Sam Adams, and You're going to have sort of heartier, a little bit heavier foods like chips and dips, or chicken wings or nachos. And so I had in mind, well, what would be the perfect beer for Super Bowl food? What would be the perfect beer to bring to a Super Bowl party? And Sam Adams Hopscape is it's a wheat ale. So that wheat malt gives the Sam Adams Hopscape this sort of crisp, refreshing malt body. And then I lay on top of that a big dose of American IPA hops. And what that does is that crisp, refreshing body will cut through the richness of the Super Bowl foods, and then the hoppiness complements the spiciness that you're going to get, in a lot of the foods that you're going to be having while you're watching the game.
Jim Koch is our guest here on the Beer Show on 1500 ESPN. All of you are very familiar with Jim and his work at Sam Adams. And, I did see a note here, too, that you've got a beer coming up in about March or April, Fresh as Hells. What can you tell us about that beer that's coming up?
Fresh as Hellas is another fun beer. For me, it just keeps the creative juices going. And Fresh as Hellas starts with a Bavarian style of beer, a South German style beer called Helles, which is a pale but malty beer. And we added to that a new style of Bavarian hops. They're called Mandarina.
Ooh.
So we use these hops that have a kind of a mandarin orange, a tangerine note, and then to tie it all together, we use orange blossoms that we add to the beer, and that orange blossoms, gives it that faint scent of oranges that kind of brings out the honey notes in the malt.
And I wanted to point the listeners to a beer that I've been a big fan of that I just discovered maybe a couple of months ago. But your guys' new Rebel Juiced IPA, and I'm not kidding you, Jim. That's one of the best beers I've had in the last 5 years. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. That was a fun beer to make.
Oh, it's incredible.
The new American hops have some of those tropical notes in them, and so we put mango juice in to accentuate that juiciness of the hops. And I'm glad you appreciate my work.
Oh, it's really incredible. It really is, and I've been pointing people in that direction for a while. It's a go-to beer. Okay, I do have to ask you, because I was noticing this on social media. I want you to tell me what's at stake in the spat that you guys have with Sweetwater. What are the stakes? What kind of did we make a bet on the Super Bowl if Atlanta wins or if New England wins, what's going into it?
I mean, it's a Super Bowl. It's beer. And, you got to talk some trash.
Yes.
So my friends at Sweetwater Brewing in Atlanta and I got together on a brewer's bet between the two of us. So the loser has to send one of their brewers to the winner's brewery. That brewer has to do the crap work at the brewery.
Yes, I love this.
Scrub it and clean it up, and then and while they're doing that, they got to wear the jersey of the winning team. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a Sweetwater brewery who will be scrubbing out the bottom of the tanks while he or she is wearing a New England Patriots jersey.
Jim, if the Falcons end up winning, are you going to be the brewer that heads to Sweetwater?
I hope not. Freddie, the owner down there, my friend, God knows what he would have me doing.
That is fantastic. Jim Koch again is our guest here on the Beer Show. Jim, I got to tell you, in the 3.5, 4 years, like I said, I've been really looking forward to talking to you, and I can't thank you enough for all of your time. And I do have to tell you, you have an open invitation anytime to come on the show to talk beer. That's what we do here every single Thursday night. And next time, when the Patriots are in town, you've got to come and check out our new stadium. It is fantastic.
That would be great. Well, thank you so much for having me on here, because, Chris, it's fun sharing a beer with you.
You got it, Jim. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
You bet. There he goes, Jim Koch of the Boston Beer Company and Samuel Adams on the Beer Show. This is Reuvers. We'll do it again next Thursday night right here on the Beer Show. Cheers.
You get a little jaded, you get a little humbled at times doing this over the course of the years, but I got to tell you, that was one of my favorite interviews, and he made it very personable and very fun, and I was very thankful for the opportunity to talk to the founder, the president, the owner, and head brewer, Jim Koch from Sam Adams, the Boston Beer Company. This is an abbreviated version of the Weekly Scramble, but I wanted to put that out there because for a very special reason that I won't get into specifically. But thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition, abbreviated edition of the Weekly Scramble. My name is Chris Reuvers. We'll do this again with Mike Fredoloni back in studio. Until then, cheers.